Alright. I've gone back and forth about posting this, but here we are. My name's William. Not my real name, obviously. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I'm not proud of what I did. But I'm also not going to pretend it wasn't effective. This happened about 3 years ago, when I was broke, stuck in a dead-end freelance grind, and watching people with half my skills rake in money just because they looked credible online. That's the part that got to me, not their success, but how fake it all felt. Perfect ratings, glowing reviews, trusted by thousands, and I knew for a fact at least some of them were lying. So I asked myself a simple question. If everyone else is faking it, why shouldn't I? That's how it started. Not with greed, not even with desperation, just frustration and curiosity. I didn't set out to build anything big. I just wanted to test something. Prove a point. Create trust, out of nothing. I picked a niche I understood, small local services. Nothing glamorous. Cleaning, repair, that kind of thing. Businesses people don't think twice about, but rely on anyway. And more importantly, businesses that live or die by reviews. That's where the idea hit me. What if I didn't just fake a review? What if I built an entire reputation from scratch, for something that didn't even exist? At the time, it felt like a harmless experiment. Looking back, that's probably the first lie I told myself. So once the idea lodged itself in my head, I couldn't shake it. I wasn't thinking like a criminal yet, more like a guy running a weird little experiment. That's what I kept telling myself, anyway. I chose a name first. Something bland, trustworthy. Northbridge Home Services. It sounded like a company that had been around forever, even though it didn't exist 5 minutes earlier. That was intentional. People trust what sounds established. Then I started building the shell. A basic website, clean layout, stock photos of smiling technicians, vague promises about reliability and customer satisfaction. I didn't overdo it. Too polished looks fake. Too sloppy looks suspicious. I aimed for that middle ground where no one really questions anything. The real work, though, was the reviews. I created accounts. A lot of them. Different names, different emails, even different writing styles. I studied how real people wrote reviews, the typos, the random details, the emotional tone. Some were short and blunt. Others rambled. By the end of the week, Northbridge had 47 5-star reviews. From absolutely no one. At that point, it looked convincing. But looking convincing and being believed are two different things. I realized pretty quickly that reviews alone weren't enough. People cross-check. They look for patterns, consistency, little signals that something is legit. So I had to build those signals. I started spacing out the reviews, adjusting timestamps so they didn't all appear in one burst. Some accounts left reviews for other businesses too, restaurants, random shops, just to look like normal people. I even had a couple of customers leave 4-star reviews with mild complaints. That part felt weirdly important. Too perfect is suspicious. Then I added a phone number. Not a real office, just a cheap virtual line that forwarded calls to me. I recorded a simple voicemail, calm, professional, slightly rushed, like a small business owner juggling too much work. "Hey, this is William from Northbridge. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." Hearing myself say that name, like it was real, that's when something shifted. It stopped feeling like an experiment. It started feeling like something I could use. The first call came on a Tuesday morning. I remember because I almost didn't pick up. I just stared at the screen while it rang, heart pounding like I'd done something way worse than I actually had. Which, at that point, wasn't much, just a fake website and some fabricated reviews. No victims yet. That's how I justified it. Eventually, I answered. It was a woman asking about a same-day repair. Her tone was cautious but hopeful, the exact tone I'd been trying to attract. For a second I froze. This was the part one hadn't really planned for, what happens when the lie starts talking back. I told her we were fully booked but could schedule later in the week. Bought myself time. After the call, I just sat there, staring at my laptop. It worked. That was the problem. Because now the question wasn't can I do this? It was what happens if I keep going? I wish I could say I stopped after that first call. That I took it as a warning and shut everything down. I didn't. Instead, I leaned in. A few days later, I called her back. Same calm voice, same fake confidence. I told her we had an opening, quoted a reasonable price, not cheap enough to be suspicious, not expensive enough to scare her off. She agreed almost immediately. That's when it hit me. I didn't actually have a service to provide. Up until then, everything had been smoke and mirrors, reviews, a website, a voice on the phone. But now there was a real person expecting real work. And I had to decide whether to back out, or take it further. I chose the second option. I found a small, struggling contractor online. Legitimate guy, decent reviews, probably needed the work. I called him, posed as a customer, and booked the job under her name and address. Then I added my markup on top. I became the middleman, without telling either side. The job was scheduled for Friday morning. I barely slept the night before. Up until then, everything had been digital, clicks, profiles, words on a screen. But this was physical. Real people, real expectations, real consequences if something went wrong. I woke up early and just sat there, staring at my phone. Half of me wanted to cancel everything, come up with some excuse, disappear. The other half was already calculating profit. When the contractor texted, "On my way," my chest tightened. A few minutes later, the customer messaged too. "Is your guy close?" Your guy. That phrase stuck with me. I wasn't just pretending anymore. I was being trusted. I spent the next 2 hours acting as a relay. The contractor asked questions, I passed them along. The customer had concerns, I reassured her. Neither of them knew the other was talking through me. It was like juggling 2 conversations while standing on a wire. And somehow, it worked. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. When the job was finished, I expected something to go wrong. A complaint, confusion, someone realizing the numbers didn't add up. Instead, I got a message. "Everything looks great. How do I pay?" That was the moment my stomach dropped. Because now I had to turn this into actual money. I sent her an invoice, simple, clean, branded with the Northbridge logo I'd thrown together. The price included my markup, padded just enough to feel normal. She didn't question it. Just paid. Just like that. A transfer hit my account an hour later. I remember staring at the number, refreshing the page over and over, like it might disappear. It felt unreal. I hadn't done the work. I hadn't even been there. But I'd made money off it anyway. Then the contractor messaged me, asking for payment. And for a second, a very real second, I wondered what would happen if I just didn't pay him. That thought scared me more than anything else so far. Because it felt easy. I did pay him. That's the part one keep coming back to. Not because I'm a good person, but because I hesitated. There was this quiet moment, maybe a minute or 2, where I just stared at his invoice and thought about keeping it all. No consequences, at least not immediately. He didn't know me. The customer didn't know him. I was the only link in the chain. I could have vanished. Instead, I sent the payment. Full amount, exactly what we agreed on. He even thanked me. Said something like, "Appreciate the quick turnaround." That stuck more than it should have. Gratitude, directed at a version of me that didn't exist. After that, I told myself I'd keep things fair. I'd take a cut, sure, but I wouldn't screw anyone over. That was the rule I made up to stay comfortable. Which sounds ridiculous now. Because the whole thing was already dishonest. I was just drawing imaginary lines, pretending I hadn't crossed the real one already. And once those lines blur, they don't come back. After that first job, something in me settled. Not morally, just operationally. Like I'd proven the system worked, and now it was time to refine it. I started taking more calls. At first I spaced them out, 1 or 2 jobs a week. Then it crept up. 3. 5. Some days my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. People found Northbridge through those fake reviews I'd planted, and now they were recommending me to others. That part messed with my head the most. Real people, trusting fake people, and then telling more real people about it. I streamlined everything. Templates for messages, a cleaner invoicing system, a list of contractors I could rotate between. I even started tracking who was reliable, who was cheap, who wouldn't ask too many questions. It became less like a scam and more like a business. That's the dangerous part, when something wrong starts feeling normal. I wasn't panicking anymore. I wasn't even nervous. I was busy. And busy people don't stop to think about whether they should. For a while, everything ran smoothly. Too smoothly. Then one afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered like usual, calm, professional, playing the part. It was the contractor. Not one I'd used often. Newer guy. Already, that was a mistake. He sounded irritated. Said the customer was asking questions, why the price was higher than what he usually charged, why the invoice didn't match what he quoted on site. My chest tightened immediately. That was the first real crack. Up until then, I'd managed the flow carefully. Kept communication just separate enough that no one compared notes. But this time, something slipped. Maybe I got sloppy. Maybe I got greedy. I tried to smooth it over, told him there were administrative fees, scheduling costs, vague nonsense that sounded official but meant nothing. He didn't push too hard, but I could hear it in his voice. Suspicion. After the call, I just sat there, replaying everything. Because for the first time, someone was looking behind the curtain. After that call, I told myself it was a one-off. Just a small inconsistency, nothing I couldn't manage. I tightened things up, clearer scripts, stricter pricing, fewer new contractors. But the damage had already started. A couple days later, the customer from that job left a review. Not a bad one, but not glowing either. 4 stars. Mentioned confusing pricing and some miscommunication. That single sentence bothered me more than all the fake 5-star reviews I'd written. Because it was real. And real feedback doesn't follow your script. Then another contractor asked a similar question. Then another customer hesitated before paying, asking for more details than usual. It was subtle, but I could feel it, tiny fractures spreading through something I thought was solid. Trust is weird like that. It takes time to build, even when it's fake. But once people start questioning it, even a little, it unravels faster than you expect. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was noticeable. Once I felt things slipping, I went into damage control mode. I doubled down on appearances. Added more reviews, carefully written, spaced out, even more human than before. I updated the website, added fake certifications, a few generic team photos. Anything to reinforce the illusion. I also got stricter with communication. Contractors got less information. Customers got clearer, more polished responses. I controlled every interaction like I was editing a story in real time. For a short while, it worked. The questions slowed down. Payments kept coming in. The system stabilized again, at least on the surface. But something had changed, and I knew it. Before, I was building something. Now, I was maintaining it. Protecting it. Constantly watching for cracks. It stopped being exciting. It started being exhausting. Every notification made my stomach tighten. Every call felt like it might be the one where someone connects the dots. And the worst part? I couldn't just walk away anymore. It happened late at night. I remember because I almost didn't check my email. Subject line: We need to talk about Northbridge. For a second, I just stared at it. No context, no name I recognized, just that sentence sitting there like a weight. I opened it anyway. It was from one of the contractors. But this wasn't a casual message. He laid everything out: prices that didn't match, customers mentioning different quotes, inconsistencies in how jobs were booked. He wasn't accusing me outright, but he didn't have to. The implication was clear. He knew something was off. And then came the part that made my chest go cold. "I've been in touch with another client who said they paid you directly. That's not how I usually operate. Can you explain?" That word, explain, felt heavier than any accusation. Because I didn't have an explanation. Not a real one. Up until that moment, I'd always been one step ahead. Now, someone was catching up. I didn't reply right away. I told myself I needed time to think, but really, I was panicking. Every version of a response sounded weak, even in my own head. There's only so many ways you can dress up a lie before it collapses under its own weight. The next morning, things got worse. I had 2 missed calls from unknown numbers and another email, this time from a customer. She was polite, but direct. Asked why the contractor mentioned a different price than what she paid me. Said she just wanted clarity. That word again. Clarity is dangerous when your entire operation depends on confusion. I tried to juggle it, sent vague replies, delayed responses, avoided specifics. But the more I tried to control the narrative, the more obvious it became that there was a narrative to control. By the end of the day, I knew it was over. Not officially. No one had threatened anything yet. No police, no legal language. But the illusion? It was breaking. And there was nothing left to hide behind. I shut it all down that night. Website gone. Phone number, disconnected. Emails, deleted or abandoned. Northbridge disappeared as quickly as it showed up. Like it never existed. No dramatic confrontation. No one showed up at my door. I wasn't caught in the way people expect. But that doesn't mean I got away clean. For weeks after, I kept expecting consequences. Every unknown number made my chest tighten. Every email felt like it might be the one that finally caught up to me. Nothing ever did. And somehow, that was worse. Because it left me alone with it. What I did wasn't violent. It didn't look serious on the surface. People got their services. Contractors got paid. But it was still manipulation. Still a lie built on other people's trust. And here's the part one didn't expect. It changed how I see everything online. So if you're reading this and thinking about cutting corners like I did, don't. Not because you'll definitely get caught. But because you won't look at yourself the same if you don't.